Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and it's time for another professional best of 5 series in StarCraft 2. And what I got for you today is a Terran versus Protoss. I just realized that it's been a little while since I last uploaded a TVP, so it's about time we get back into the swing of things. So this is a best of 5 played at the IEM Into Extreme Masters Katowice, one of the biggest tournaments in StarCraft 2. And this is apparently a matchup that I haven't seen just yet, but also one of the very best series of the entire tournament, so I think we should be in for a treat. Spawning here in the bottom right hand corner of game number 1 on Catalyst LE and playing with the red Terran SCVs, we have none other than Maru. And his opponent spawning in the opposite corner and playing with the blue Protoss probes, we have SOS. $sign is, you know, what it used to go by for a little while, because the running joke was that SOS would only really participate in and win tournaments that had at least $100,000 as far as their prize pool goes. And there's no denying that SOS is an absolute monster. The guy's very good. He's actually a multiple world champion, or multiple times world champion in StarCraft 2. He ended up winning BlizzCon several times. Maru, of course, he's been around since the very beginning in StarCraft 2. He's not even that old just yet. I remember watching him play years and years and years ago in the GSL Code S already. He's just simply getting better and better and better. And right now, a lot of people consider him to be one of the very best when it comes to playing the Terran pieces. Now, this is going to be a Terran versus Protoss. And TVP, it's been going through a couple of changes recently. I mean, ever since patch 4.0, right after BlizzCon in 2017, just a couple of months ago, Terran vs. Protoss has gone through a wide variety of changes just because of the fact that the Mothership core got removed, of course, and on top of that, we also saw some buffs and whatnot to the Stalker. Now, for a while, it seemed like it was very difficult for, and actually, the Protoss is hiding this probe right now. I'll have to keep an eye out on that in just a little bit. But regardless, for a while it seems that that Terran players were struggling extremely hard. The Stalker has been skilled back once again. I love this. Maru is indeed going to be sending out the oh my god, that's such a cheeky little move, right? Maru is just simply going to be sending out the Reaper to go off into a bit of an unorthodox direction as well, but the probe was hiding there just to delay that command center for a little while. Zealot now also moving across the map. This is at a timing where the Reaper once again will be moved. This is like such a typical SOS kind of game. This is why SOS is great at winning tournaments. And he even just forced the council right there on the command center. Whoa, that's insane. SOS playing something just a little bit out of the ordinary, but completely throwing his opponent right there for a win. That's so cool. I love it. Maru now forced into that bunker right here as well as the factory. He's going to be building a command center once again inside of the main base. Reaper will of course be able to help out. Stalker will be able to pick up at the very least one of those kills. Second SCV now also going down. He's going to be going after the Reaper there too, and this is starting to deal a heck of a lot of damage right here in game 1. This is not even like he played something completely crazy, because he really just made a Stalker right there as well as a Zealot, and he made a scouting probe. I mean, it's nothing all too wild. It's just the way that he positioned his units in. This is what SOS does. He's very good when it comes to very map-specific builds. He knows the exact time of when the Reaper should be moving over in that direction and when the probe can go back in, when the Zealot should be hiding in this corner, and when the Reaper will be moving across. It's such a cheeky move that will make all the difference when you're playing at the top level in StarCraft 2. Love this as well, just simply putting the Cyber Core right there on the top of the ramp, preventing any units from getting in there. That Reaper will not be able to jump up onto the high ground. Very nicely done. And actually, apparently this Reaper will now indeed also go up in a puff of smoke. Anyway, while this matchup has been going through a lot of changes, it's been the same for the Terran players lately. A lot of Terrans have been focusing on a heavy amount of Cyclones in pretty much all matchups. Cyclones, of course, they change things up pretty crazily. Like, Cyclones, they are very good at the earlier stages of the game, but they seem to fall off when the game goes for the later stages instead. So a Tech Lab now coming up here as well for Maru. He's got to be switching towards additional barracks here as well. So we will be seeing that very bio-focused army. But Cyclones, they're great at anti-air, they're great at anti-ground, and they just simply demolish everything in one-on-one battles. Actually think we will be seeing that switch around here as well. A bit of a cyclone drop right now coming up here for Maru. Maru definitely at a bit of a disadvantage. Already the third Nexus is now going up here for SOS. But this is a pretty weird timing here as well for the Terran player to move out at. I mean, this is a relatively small group of Marines and then a single medevac loaded up with 2 Cyclones. Not quite what you would expect. Blink though, just about to finish up, and that's going to be super helpful against these Marines. These Marines will go down in just a matter of seconds. The probe will also be moving across, and while the Cyclones are dropping off inside of the main base, every single last of these Terran units ended up dying. Maru immediately target firing down the Cybernetics core, trying to see if he can prevent any additional Stalker warpins from happening, but SOS completely all over his opponent right now in game number 1, just simply blinking forward once again, trying to go after a couple of those SCVs, and while this is going on, he's buying time to even finish up the third Nexus as well. Blinking behind this supply here as well, or this supply depot as well. The siege tank will be pushed back there too. One of these Stalkers will be denied from blinking here for a little bit of time, but you know, eventually it's going to be able to find the high ground. One of them now actually left up on that high ground to just simply provide a little bit of additional vision there. At the same time, the Cyclones dropping off behind that mineral line. One of them does have to pay for that as well, and right now Maru will confirm that indeed the third Nexus is also taken. SOS got a mass recall towards that position, trying to see if he can potentially get the medevac. He will be able to do so, and SOS completely demolishing his opponent here in game 1. This is already an insane game. I love this. I mean, SOS is making Maru look like he's like, you know, a new player in SC2, right? He's like, sure kid, you go ahead, play whatever you want. I'll just demolish you while we're at it. A lot of gateways now coming up as well as that War Prism. I think that SOS is gonna try to go for the killing blow. I mean, he's got an insane economy, 48 versus 28 workers. We will once again be seeing the potential, at the very least, for the blink up into the main base. Now that the Observer is here to provide that high ground vision. SOS, though, will see this army coming up, and he apparently does decide to blink there, but he did not go into the main base, which I think, all things considered, is a smart decision. Zealots will be finishing up their leg enhancement upgrade here in just a little bit. Gateways finishing up inside of that main base. There is a single siege tank already in position, as well as that Raven. Maru also has got himself that second siege tank out, which I think is going to be absolutely critical. But this is most definitely SOS's game to lose, and here comes the warp in. Now keep in mind, this is a gateway-based army, right? He does have blink here in just a little bit, or charge here in just a little bit. The blink upgrade is also going to finish up here. I think he's actually going to try and push this Terran player into 2 different angles, potentially even unsiege the tanks. Maru just a little bit too good for that though. Not going to make that happen, as the blink will be forced once again in the low ground. But here we go. Zealots trying to see if they can engage. Blink is done. Charge is done. They're going to immediately go after one of those tanks. Tank will end up dying here. There are just simply so many units remaining. Great anti-armor missile though, preventing a lot of these Zealots from continuing onwards with their engagement, but another one of the siege tanks ends up dying. Beautiful force field preventing these Terran units from leaving their own main base, and now the sentries as well as the Stalkers are starting to deal the damage here to the orbital command. It will not go down just yet, but the SCVs are going to be able to keep it alive just barely. But 8 SCVs once again going down, and SOS is still building up his own supply count. Transitioning right now towards more Zealots as well as that single Immortal. I mean, what are you gonna do right now if you're Maru, right? Sure, you managed to hold on to a push that was meant to kill you, but there's no denying that already, you know, you can't move out, right? You can't really move out at this point. I mean, what are you gonna do? He's gonna need some really solid connections here on these Widow Mines if he plans on dealing any kind of damage. SOS now even, oh, I thought he was going to actually go over towards that 4th base location. I was going to say, that might be overextending just a little bit. Still though, SOS once again going in here with the War Prism. You will now see, of course, that Terran army stemming forward here as well. There's only a single medevac available, so these units are not quite going to be able to heal them up. One of the Zealots there ended up dying, but 3 of them are available, and that War Prism is going to continuously provide a bit of a threat here for the Terran player. Looks like SOS is gonna go for killing blow number 2. He may even be going for a 4th Nexus here as well. At the same time, Maru is going to go for a bit of a move out. SOS immediately going into the main base once again with that Warp Prism, triggering the Widow Mine there beautifully. And he's going to, of course, be able to go for the Warp in there. At the same time, the Terran army is caught in the middle of the map. And while, of course, the anti-armor missile is nice, right? All of the Widow Mines end up getting killed, and SOS dominates his opponent here in game number 1. It's actually pretty interesting though, because the longer that StarCraft 2 goes on and the longer that SC2 is an esport, the less we see these kind of games that we saw in game 1. I mean, SOS really made his opponent look like a noob there. And Maru is one of the greatest Terran players. It's so sick. He plays his own styles, he plays his own builds, and he caters them towards his opponent. He studies a lot of replays. He's mentioned that in several interviews. He studies a lot of replays of his opponents, and he comes up with builds that he knows he's going to be able to beat his opponents with. It's so sick. Even when he doesn't have a lot of time to prepare, like in particular like the GSL and stuff, you usually get a couple of, sometimes even a couple of weeks of a heads up who you're going to be playing. But SOS, even at tournaments where, for example, IEM, right, you don't really know who it is you're going to be going up against, he still prepares builds in advance just in case. Cater to the player, cater to the map. It's really cool. We'll have to see if he's got something in store for us right here in game number 2 as well. Maru definitely must not be feeling happy after that game, but then again, it's a best of 5 series, it's first to 3 points. Usually, even, you know, losing a little bit of momentum here is not that big of a deal. Second map though is gonna be on Blackpink. This is a bit more of a macro standard map. Usually pretty straightforward as far as the expansion rates and whatnot go. I wonder though what Maru is got in store for us, right? He wanted to definitely play something a little bit differently there in game 1. And like mentally speaking, and not a lot of people talk about the mental game in StarCraft 2, and mentally speaking, that must be really frustrating to deal with. Maru did go for that quick refinery though. This time around, we do not see a factory coming up just yet either. It looks like he's gonna actually go for the expansion first. Yet there is also no Reaper available just yet, so very little scouting here for our Terran player in red. In the meantime though, on the other side of the map, and the command center does get started by the way now that the Marine is out. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we do see that cybernetic score here for SOS, and he's going to be transitioning towards the second assimilator as well. Maru poking into that mineral line, trying to see if he can get a read on exactly what it is that the Protoss player is going for right now. Nothing too crazy just yet. An Adept will be chrono boosted here, as well as the cybernetics core immediately starting up the warp gate upgrade, and that's what Maru stuck around there for a little while longer, trying to see exactly what it is his opponent is going for. And there we do indeed see the Twilight Council now coming up here for our Protoss player once again. So he's likely going to be going for a gateway-based army here in the earlier stages of the game once more. Maru just checking a couple of the common proxy locations. He knows very well who his opponent is, right? So you don't wanna be caught with your pants down. If a robotics facility or, for example, a Stargate would be available over here, he would be able to start countering that. But so far, it looks like we are setting ourselves up for a relatively normal macro-based game. Maru now going for that 1-1-1 based style, 1 barracks, 1 factory, and then 1 starport as well. Command center on the low ground just ended up finishing as well, so we're gonna be seeing 2 mules drop here in just a little bit, and of course, that's when that economy of a Terran player really is booming. SOS actually sending the shades forward here as well. Just doing some scouting, right? Trying to figure out if this Protoss army is gonna go up against something Terran focused here in just a little bit. Does he need to warp in soon? It doesn't look like that is going to be the case, so he knows he's gonna be safe here for the time being. Robotics facility coming up here, as well as that gateway, as well as the Dark Shrine. SOS not actually going for any additional upgrades just yet. Instead, he's just simply gonna be going for his cloaking upgrades on the Dark Templar, of course. So far, Maru doesn't have any kind of detection available just yet, but usually right around this time, we will see Terran players saving up at the very least a scan or 2, just in case their opponent is going to be a little bit of a nuisance. Engineering bay is likely going to be coming up here in a little bit as well, if he's not going to be saving up scans. Yeah, look at that, he's already got 54 energy here on that single command center, so at the very least 1 scan will be available here for our Terran player in red. Forward pylon immediately shut down here. That's just gonna be there, you know, to be a little bit of a nuisance. And at the same time, and actually, I love this. Oh, I almost missed that. At the same time, we saw a pylon going up there to warp into the natural of the Zerg, or of the Terran player rather. Such a cheeky move there by SOS, once again going for an SOS-esque build. However, before the Dark Templar could finish warping in, the pylon was already destroyed by those Cyclones. Single Dark Templar now though, coming in for the kill. It's gonna try and see if it can deal some damage. It did get two of those Marines as well for its life, but there's no denying that right now SOS is gonna be in a little bit of trouble. He knows his opponent is gonna have a limited amount of scans available, so he's sending forward another one of those Dark Templar. Is there going to be another one available? There's one more scan here in the main base. No in the natural available just yet, or none in the natural available just yet. Immortal though going to be critical against this Cyclone-based force. Scan did get activated there, but the Dark Templar lives here to fight another day, at the very least for a little while longer, and there we go. Immortal is going to start dealing a little bit of damage, and while this engagement could have gone heavily in favor here of the Terran player, the scans just barely were missed there, and that means that the Dark Templar will be able to force this army to retreat for now, although, once again, right, Maru is going to drop into the main base. He's going to try and see if he can go after this pylon. I love this! Great job here by Maru, trying to see if he can pick off this pylon here nonetheless. He knows that it's one of the few that's powering a lot of these structures, but a new one was already coming up here for SOS, and these units will not be missing the power here for all too long. Single Dark Templar made its way across the map, but Maru already preparing with both missile turrets as well as that Raven. He's going to be able to pick this one off with relative ease as well. Warp Prism of SOS now though made its way across the map here too. It's gonna try and probably do a bit of a warp in. Maru did just manage to see that just barely. Yeah, no, this is not gonna work, buddy. That is not gonna work. The Terran player going up against a little bit too good for that. Yes, indeed, the Warp Prism will just simply hang out in the corner, while apparently Maru is gonna try and once again lock on here. Wow, that's so sick. Oh, that's so beautiful. Providing that vision here with the medevac. And then just simply picking that unit off, that's so cool. Man, I love watching professional level of StarCraft 2. I mean, call me a nerd. I don't think anyone's surprised there, but man, that's so cool. That's such a well-played move. SOS, though, not really phased by that all too much. He lost the War Prism there. Just simply making a new one. Also now coming up with that third Nexus as well as that Forge. Maru just simply producing a lot of stuff here, though, off of the two bases that he's got. This could still be really anyone's game, but Maru is going to be the one that's forced to be the aggressor. There aren't really a whole lot of unit producing structures here for our Protoss. But the thing is, there's no third command center here available for the Terran player just yet. That's pretty critical. He's probably going to follow it up with one here in just a little bit. Combat and Stimpak, or Combat Shield here and Stimpak, as well as the Concussive Shell upgrade, will be finishing here in just a little bit. Terran did just scan the third Nexus location here of SOS, so he knows exactly what it is that he is going to be going up against. Stimpak finishing up here, Concussive Shell also finishing up here, so that means that this Protoss army is all of a sudden going up against a much scarier Terran-based force, and here we go. The Marines and the Marauders immediately trying to deal a little bit of damage. Great force field so far though. Picking them up though is Maru, trying to see if he can save as many of those units as he possibly can. Still, this Protoss army definitely not to be considered to, or definitely not to be taken lightly either. Massive Zealot warp in right now as well, trying to go after as many of those units as possible. Great split right there by SOS, preventing a lot of these units from getting that anti-armor missile, but a second one does come in as well. Maru trying to stim forward, trying to see if he can pick off as many of those units as possible during the duration there, while these units have their armor reduced. And once again, right, it looks like SOS is going to be the one that will be forced back. Maru taking a dominant lead here when it comes to the supply count, even now recalling the majority of that army back into the main base as well. But SOS, he's going to be the one that's on the back foot. +1 attack just started up here as well for our Protoss player. Blink is going to be coming up here and it's just about halfway done or so, but it won't be finished before this push here from our Terran player will hit. War Prism still threatening those run-bys on the other side of the map. War Prism is going to be a bit of a nuisance there. Widow Mines immediately detonating on a big chunk of that Protoss army. Once again, great force fields are coming up. Denying the attacks right there on that Immortal as well is Maru. War Prism now inside of the main base, trying to see if it can deal a little bit of damage with one of those Immortals as well as that Sentry. At the same time though, on the other side of the map, we see Protoss just barely holding on here by the skin of his teeth. And he's actually, SOS is actually doing this somehow, some way. He's actually doing a great job harassing here Once again, though, now that the Protoss army is running out of sentry energy, that Immortal will end up going down, and Maru is stemming forward. He's gonna be able to kill a lot of those probes. Widowmine's zoning away a majority of that army as well. Great pickup micro once again by SOS, going after as many of those structures as possible. Maru has decided that he doesn't want to kill that third base, and instead he's gonna go for the kill on the natural. And I think that that Immortal will also end up going down once again. A lot of these probes are in a lot of trouble. Dark Templar now simply going after a lot of those SCVs as well. War Prism being such a menacing force here, just a single one of them, but that Immortal is running awfully low, and I think that that is all she wrote right now for our Protoss player in blue, as Maru is gonna go after several of those bases. Still, SOS is not gonna leave this game without a final stand. But I mean, the zoning here is just going to be a little bit too much, right? I don't see how you could possibly hold on to that. War Prism not available here, and SOS indeed. GG's out of game number 2. Alrighty, so Maru apparently not faced after his depressing loss there in game number 1. Ended up playing a very solid game 2 there, even though SOS, right? SOS seemed to be already out of that game for a long time. And then all of a sudden the War Prism in the main base still dealt so much damage. That single Immortal and then the Sentry, as well as the Warpin of the Dark Templar. That's the kind of thing that SOS does, and what makes him such a scary opponent. He just does his own thing, which is so cool to see. Next game is going to be on Eastwatch. Now this map does feature a gold base, as well as these beautiful creatures right here that are scattered all over the map. I believe there's one. Yeah, I believe there's... Yeah, look at that. There's one of them right hanging out by the trees as well. There's a bunch of different kinds of Easter eggs on this one. It's the map with the train tracks. I personally love watching games on this because you can take some risks and go for the gold base. And I mean, SOS definitely not a player to shy away from that kind of stuff. Once again, going for a very quick probe scout. SCV will be pulled off the mineral line to try and see if it can force this probe away from just harassing that barracks building SCV as well. I'm curious to see though if either of these players is really gonna mix it up here in game 2, or in game 3 rather, right? This time around it does look like SOS will be going for a much quicker expansion on the low ground, judging by the way that he's positioning his buildings here. Yeah, he's only mining a single propane gas there, so I wouldn't be surprised. He's actually... No, he's once again gonna go for the Zealot. Very interesting there. You'd wonder what he has actually scouted here inside of the main base that makes him go for that. Sometimes you will see players go for the Zealot first, sometimes you don't. Judging by the way that that probe was positioning itself, I would have figured that he actually was planning to go for the Nexus quicker. He will still be going for it before his opponent. Command Center now also started roughly around the same time though on the other side of the map, and I mean, SOS just being a bit of a nuisance, right? Trying to see if it can potentially deal some damage. Now hiding that probe in the corner as well. This is the kind of stuff that only really SOS will know. Apparently there's one dark spot in the main base. Maru just a little bit too good for that though. The probe will come back into the main base, but it's such a cheeky move. It's these little tiny advantages that build up to something much bigger. Right? Apparently, I didn't know that either. Apparently there's one dark spot there inside of the main base of the Terran player if you're mining just like a regular human being. Right? And that one would have gone back, it would have gone back in to confirm exactly what build Maru would have been going for, essentially showing the hand. Zealot now once again moving across the map. Maru also is gonna go up against the Stalker right now that's coming in for the reinforcement. He will figure that out very shortly. That's actually a big deal. You can't really take any damage here on these. At the same time, Zealot made its way across the map. It's gonna have to pick off this SCV before that command center finishes up. Great micro so far though by SOS, and he will be able to pick that one up just seconds before finishing, and this will actually supply block a Terran player temporarily. He's now going to start sacrificing in a couple of those SCVs, and apparently it is going to be enough to finish up the CC. Reaper now made its way across the map. Stalker not done just yet, and this actually could be a bit of a troubling moment here as well for the Protoss player, losing a lot of mining time already. Maru is going to end up losing one of those across the map as well, and that's actually the third Stalker that's currently on that production tab. There we go. It will be able to deflect this Reaper for now, which means that we can once again focus inside of the main base of the Terran player. SOS though, he's going to have to go up right now against a single one of those Cyclones, and Cyclones will absolutely demolish this army. Look at that. Just quickly picking up one of those Zealots and then also one of those Stalkers. Maru will stand tall here for now. And while his early game is a little bit messed with so far, he's just simply going to transition towards his comfortable style once again. Gateways coming up right now, as well as that Blink Stalker upgrade here for our Protoss player. We'll have to see what he plans on doing with the Blink once it does finish up. Maru though, just simply gonna go for the safe and sound style right now. Wouldn't be surprised if he does the switch around, or he could go ahead and play Benchy as well, of course, if he really wants to, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for the switch around and maybe starts producing a siege tank or two, which of course is extremely potent against a lot of these units. We'll have to see what he plans on doing. Now he's actually gonna go straight into the Raven. Once again, rather than spending a scan into the main base, he's seen the Twilight Council. He doesn't know if it's going to be a Dark Shrine. Now, apparently SOS, even though he went for Blink in game number 1 and Dark Templar in game number 2, in this game he's going to go for both. We'll have to see how that plays out. Shield Battery now going up here for the front of the Protoss base, or of the Protoss base here as well. Maru once again though going for that drop with the Marines and then also the Cyclones. This can deal a huge amount of damage here to this army. Couple of these Stalkers are not going to be quite enough. Now there is a bit of a Warp Prism, or rather a Warp Pin here helping this Protoss army out as well. Great pickup micro though, just keeping these units alive for as long as possible. Maru showing us why he's so very good, but at the at the end there he will end up losing every single one of these Cyclones. And while 2 Marines are desperately trying to get away there, SOS is already constructing a pylon once again on the other side of the map, sticking out their probe right around the time that the Dark Shrine got started as well. This one will now even head into the main base, put up a pylon over there too. This is actually a little bit annoying here. 3 Stalkers will now be warped in as well. They are actually going to be very important here. Blink is of course done here. Dark Templar can come up with the follow-up here as well, but of course the Raven's already available here as well. Immediately blinking forward though, going after that Siege Tank. Siege Tank will end up dying there. Very nicely done by our Protoss player. Once again, trying to go after as many of those units as possible. Not a whole lot of SCVs though have been killed just yet, but that's going to be coming up here in just a second. 5 of them end up going down already. These Stalkers are positioning themselves in a way where they could blink down to the low ground, but apparently Maru is going to have to deal with these for a little while longer. At the same time, Dark Templar now also being warped in. They're going to try and see if they can maybe head into the main base. Raven actually running very low here on energy. That's actually very critical to keep that one alive. You cannot have that one going down so far. Auto turret though helping out here for a little while longer. I think that SOS planned on killing that one here, just barely in the nick of time, but still, Dark Templar are going to town everywhere. 18, 20, 21, 22 workers have already died here. And even though that Raven is available, and technically speaking, Maru should have been able to counter that, right? SOS is once again taking a dominating lead. And guess what he's doing on the other side of the map? He's taken the gold base. Now, I know that there are a lot of SOS fans out there, okay? And I'm one of them. SOS is such a monster. He just plays his own style, and when you try to do something along those lines, right? Because technically speaking, he's just playing Blink Stalker and Dark Templar here, right? It's not that scary. It's not that weird, but the way he controls it and his decision making is just second to none. It's such a difficult thing to do. Now Maru though, he's not out of the waters yet, right? He's got these, you know, these yellow mining machines. They drop out of the sky and they provide a lot of additional resources. That does mean that even though he does have the economy deficit right now, and he also doesn't know about the fact that there is a gold base taken, I don't think, no. Even though he does have the economical deficit right now, there's no denying that he does still have a very scary army. Army-wise, he's actually ahead of his opponent right now. There's also, as far as I know, no... Yeah, there is actually a Warp Prism. Okay, of course there's a Warp Prism. SOS is playing, Loco. What are you saying? There's no Warp Prism on the other side of the map, but it's going to be coming up in just a second. Single Dark Templar loaded up into that one. SOS always has Warp Prisms. It's so sick. Alrighty, as far as the upgrades go, Stimpack is done. Concussive Shell is done as well. +1 infantry weapons is done too. Charge and Blink once more finished up here for our Protoss. But SOS, I mean, he's going to be forced to split his attention between defending 2 different bases. Of course, he can mass recall towards this expansion. The probe right now will confirm exactly where this Terran army is located, as one of the Ravens is going to try and see if they can swoop around. Terran is now actually starting to go into this corner. I'm not entirely sure if I agree with that decision making. I think he planned on sieging up this tank in this area as well. Immediately though, loading up all of those units into that medevac. Instead of dropping off at the gold base, he's going to be going into the main instead. Warping right now all of those units towards the main once again as well is SOS. He's now going to be capable of setting up that surround. Anti-armor missile will come up here, but of course these Stalker will be able to pick off these units with relative ease. Beautiful positioning right there on that shield battery as well, keeping these units alive for a little while longer still. Maru is getting a lot of value out of this engagement as well. Forcing the warp in here at the gold base location, Zealots will be able to stand tall here for a little while longer as Maru is forced back. But really, this was a push that was meant to deal a lot of damage. There's no third base follow-up here for Maru. He's going to be mining out of his main base here very, very shortly, and Protoss is happily sitting on a gold. Dark Templar, of course, once again being a nuisance. I think he already dropped the one off while I wasn't paying attention inside of the main base. SOS likely will be dropping the second one off into the main instead. Maru is going to try and just simply push forward here, but I don't see how it's going to happen, right? The warpins here of SOS have been on point, not playing too greedy here either. Dark Templar immediately heading into the main base right when he knows that this Terran army is going to be caught on the other side of the map, including that Raven. One Zealot, once again, just simply standing there, paying attention to where this army is located, and judging by the amount of supply right now, right, this can still go in favor of the Terran player, but SOS has got a menacing amount of stuff. Beautiful anti-armor missile though, really making this army a whole lot softer to hit. These Widow Mines are going to be able to deal quite a bit of damage as well. Great play so far. A single Dark Templar even helping out right there too, picking up a couple of kills already. But once again, right, the DT in the main base still going to town. This is a complete all-in right now by our Terran player, but has he actually got enough? This actually does look like all of a sudden the Terran player has managed to swoop this one around. A lot of these units ended up dealing a significant amount of damage. Those anti-armor missiles and those Ravens are really helping out a lot, and all of a sudden, even though Maru seemed like he was out of the water there, SOS's army was completely smashed. Maru, in a last-ditch effort, he's only got 16 SCVs remaining. That's not a lot. Dark Templar still in the main base as well. All of a sudden, Maru's army, it looks like it may just simply be big enough. Right? SOS, he's been playing cheeky games. Maru just simply going for the gold standard. Now even target firing down the main nexus there as well. It's very critical that that one stays alive because it's the last mining base right now for our Protoss player. SOS try to warp in as many units as he possibly can, but the strength of Marine Marauder Medevac may just simply be a little bit too much as SOS tried to go for some tricks. And Maru turned it upside down, goes for a sick engagement there. Beautiful anti-armor missile, and he all of a sudden obtains the victory. It's pretty easy to go ahead and underestimate Marine Marauder Medevac. I think we've all been there. If you've been playing StarCraft 2, whether or not you're Terran, Protoss, or Zerg, you've probably once upon a time underestimated the strength of Marine Marauder Medevac with upgrades. It's very, very, very scary, and I guess that... you know, SOS, he was forced to split up his army right there because he took the gold base. I think that if SOS would have just taken the normal third base expansion instead, and he wasn't forced to split up his army in such a weird way, he probably would have been fine. But then again, in retrospect, StarCraft 2 is a pretty easy game, right? After the fact and after, you know, after just simply watching the games, everyone's a grandmaster, right? Everyone is a top tier pro gamer after watching any of the matches. It's like, well, you know what? You know what, SOS? You really should have not taken the gold base. It's like, yeah, Lowko, easier said than done, right? You make a decision, you stick with it, and that's usually how StarCraft 2 gets played. Now, there's a second probe moving across the map already. Not entirely sure what SOS has got in store for us right here. I do know that he's currently, you know, going up against a player here that's got match point. But SOS definitely not scared to put a lot on the line. I mean, I don't really know exactly what he's planning on doing, though, with this second probe. That's a lot of, you know, committed income right now, right? Is he just simply gonna hang it out in the bottom, or in the top left-hand corner, rather? And potentially build a proxy from there? I would be 100% okay with that. SOS, though, keeping everything else... oh my... oh, SOS. You madman. This is what makes people love SOS, though. It's like, alright, it's match point, right? This is IEM Katowice, is when this match was played. You know, there's like $100,000 on the line. Let's go ahead and put a pylon in the top left-hand corner where my opponent is one of the greatest Terran players of all time. Alright, well the Cybercore will be finishing here in a second, so we will see what kind of cheese SOS plans on going for. I don't think we will be seeing that command center or Nexus going up anytime soon, and SOS builds a Stargate. Here's the thing. You can go ahead and build, for example, shield batteries. Shield batteries heal up whatever unit you build. Now Maru will confirm right now that, wait a second, there's no command center or no Nexus here on the low ground. Something is not quite right. Something is not quite right. As Maru checks the gold, he's like, oh, no way. He's now also checking the other gold here with his Reaper. He's like, oh man, what is this trickster doing right now? He's likely gonna check a lot of different locations, except for the one in the top left-hand corner, because who the heck proxies at your opponent's third base? Technically speaking, the most obvious location, but realistically, very easy to forget. SOS is even going to be sending stalkers across the map right now too. Single Void Ray is already being constructed, and right now Maru will figure out. Maru will figure out exactly what's going on. Another shield battery will be constructed here as well. He's likely going to go for a third one here too, and this is going to be a very difficult game to win for Maru. These shield batteries, they're going to be helpful, and if somehow, some way Maru ends up holding on, he's going to be in a great spot. But this is definitely scouted at the last possible moment. Maru, though, he's still got a lot of Marines coming up here already, denying that bunker here for now. A single one of the Marines will immediately go down, and SOS is just simply gonna run back as soon as that Void Ray takes any kind of damage. Second Void Ray will be helping out in just a little bit as well. Another Stalker now also coming out. It's gonna try and go for the run by. Apparently it will be able to successfully do so, but SOS will have another one available in just a little bit to greet it and defend at home. A lot of these supply depots will now also be taken care of. Second Void Ray will be coming up here in just a couple of seconds, and Maru is trying to hide a starport here in the top right-hand corner of the map. Maybe, right, of his main base rather, maybe he can go ahead and use that to his advantages and produce a Viking to deal some damage to these Voids from a distance, but the Void Rays and the Stalkers, they just simply deal so much damage. Probes as well as that Stalker now in the main base ended up dealing just fine with all of these units, but here come the boys. A lot of the boys are pulled right now as well for our Protoss or for our Terran player. They're gonna try and see if they can soak up some of that damage. Single one of the Cyclone doing a great job so far, but look at these shield batteries. SOS, you madman, he's done it again. He's evened up the score 2-2. Well, there we have it, the final match of this best of 5 series, and apparently it's on Backwater LE. Now this is a map that allows for a very easy and a very accessible third base. At the very least, if you're, coming from the natural expansion, it's very easy to access. But when you're your opponent, right, when you're the opposing player here, it's very difficult to push into this. Still, wouldn't be surprised though if SOS will figure out a way. He finds a way, once again, going though for that pylon on the low ground, scouting with a probe. And I'm mostly curious here whether or not SOS, once again, plans for going something cheesy. If he plans for going something cheesy, or if he plans on going, rather, for something cheesy. Barracks being constructed here for Maru, immediately following it up with the refinery. A little interesting there. Most players actually go for the refinery first and then the barracks. Doesn't really matter all too much, but it's kind of a very specific thing. That usually means that he's not quite going to be going for as quick of a factory, or at the very least, it's either a quick Reaper or going to be a quick factory. Otherwise, you kind of run out of gas really quickly. It doesn't really matter all too much though in the grand scheme of things. These all of these minor build order deviations usually don't really add up to anything massive. Wouldn't be surprised if you see a Nexus going up here on the low ground in just a little bit for SOS. There we go. He's right at 400 minerals right now, playing a super standard game. First time that he plays a super standard game here. Look at that. Incredible SOS. He does have that gas in the main right now, fully saturated. Earlier, it was only mining with a single one over there. So we do now see that Reaper coming up here as well as SOS, just simply trying to deny the command center from being constructed here on the low ground. No cheeky Zealot run-bys this time around either. And Maru will confirm that right now. He's like, wait a second. SOS is playing standard? What are you hiding, right? I don't think that's how that works, but it kind of does when you're going up against SOS. It's such a messy opponent, or such a messy player to go up against, right? He will try to make something look very standard, but then go for something completely out of the ordinary. All right, so the probe oh my god, the probe even got mass recalled there. That is just, you know, rubbing salt in the wounds. It's such a dirty move. Apparently, though, it didn't quite make it, and SOS ended up effectively losing a chrono boost there. Stargate, though, coming up here for our Protoss player. He's now going to go for the Adept that will likely be used to confirm exactly what it is that the Terran player is going up against. It's brilliantly timed there to immediately deal with this very first Reaper, as well as the Reaper, of course, is going to be critical when it comes to the early game defense. Second Adept, though, coming up here. The first one is going to try and make its way across the map. We see a factory now coming up here for Maru, already mining 2 and 2 or 3 and 3 right here in gas in the main base. So that does mean that he's going to be capable of going for really whatever he likes to. We could even be seeing mech. Some players have been playing mech recently against Protoss. I would love to see something along those lines. And nice little bit of micro actually right there by the Terran player. Even now getting himself 2 workers there in exchange for just a single one of those Reaper. At the same time, though, Adepts, already a single Adept right there, managed to make its way into the main base. It's also going to be killing at the very least 2 of them so far, and indeed that is going to be 2 SCVs there in total. Starport being constructed here for Maru, so he's going to go for that 1-1-1 style. Once again, going for the Cyclones, as well as those Marines. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for a second Cyclone, and then also a Medevac here in just a little bit. I like how Maru, in every single one of these games, he's been acting like he wants to play a macro game, but in none of those has he really been able to, right? It's mostly the Protoss player that determines where this matchup goes. Oracle now being constructed here for our Protoss. He's likely going to be transitioning towards a quick third Nexus here in just a little bit. Wouldn't be surprised at the very least if that is going to be the case. Then again, SOS is a player who can make anything happen. Adepts are going to try and shade up into the main base. Great supply depot raise though, denying that scout from heading on in there. Still, there is not really a whole lot of detection available, or a whole lot of anti-air here available for the Terran player. No missile turrets, but two oracles, or rather 1 oracle will definitely be taking some damage here from these Cyclones, as indeed it will be deflected here for the time being. Stasis Ward now even going up here in the center of the natural. I'm not entirely sure if I like that decision making all too much. SOS spending a whole lot of energy on that, and Maru will be forced to go back home. It seems like Maru is actually even going for a build that is specifically designed here to try and counter whatever it is that the Protoss player is going for right now. Because this is not something you see every single Terran player do right now. Still pretty standard though. Single Viking now also coming up with the follow here. Maru is now gonna go for a 3rd command center. So rather than adding on additional barracks, he's gonna go for a 3rd command center and just simply sit on his 1-1-1 style here for a little while longer. Marines dropped off in the main base. He's gonna try and pressure here as much as possible. SOS though doing SOS based things, immediately sending 3 of those oracles across the map. Cyclones are gonna be extremely helpful here, but that shield battery providing a lot of additional value as well. Maru trying to bait his opponent away from his own main base. Marines now in the main base actually picking off quite a lot of kills, but here come the oracles, and they're going to be able to make short work of this mineral line here. Look at that, 8 SCVs going down in just a matter of seconds. SOS will be moving a lot of that army across the map right now as well, but Maru is not done in that natural just yet. He's cleaned up the main base. Single one of these Vikings though, as well as these Cyclones, are going to provide a lot of additional value, and while the Zealots and the Stalkers are slashing away at the last of the Marines here, in the meantime SOS is definitely picking up a nice little advantage here on the other side of the map. Cyclones should be able to eventually ward away those units, but here's the thing, Maru has got a 3rd command center, whereas there is no 3rd nexus up here for the Protoss just yet. So even though Maru ended up losing the majority of his workers there, look at that, insane play. I don't think, does the Protoss know about it? No, Protoss does not know about this command center. And 3 mules at once, right? That's like an economy on its own. Right? 3 mules just simply dropping down and providing that additional income. That's like a lot of additional economy just on a single one of those types of workers. SOS is going to be grabbing himself that 3rd nexus. He's also going to once again try to saturate up his main base. More and more oracles are being produced here, but I have to say I actually really like this position for Maru a little bit better than his opponent. I mean, SOS, he does still have that economy lead, but as far as tech and whatnot go, this is going to get a little bit crazy here for SOS. SOS now adding on more and more of these oracles. I do think that's very critical. We see the Templar, or the Twilight Council rather, coming up here in just a little bit as well. Adepts now shading into the natural, and that's really nicely done. This can actually definitely turn the tides of battle very quickly. Great placement, though, on that single siege tank. The Adepts now making their way towards the third base expansion as well. Apparently, they're just simply going to go in for a little bit of denying of that economy. At the same time, 2 Cyclones were dropped off on the other side of the map. Immediately, the Oracle trying to deal a little bit of damage as well, but SOS not really losing anything too critical just yet. Alright, so we got ourselves a... if you wouldn't have watched like the first 5 minutes of the game, right? You may have been looking at this game and you were like, hey, this looks pretty standard, right? Third bases, we see a lot of economy here for both of these players. Both of them have got a bunch of unit producing structures. This definitely looks like a normal game, but in reality, this is definitely not quite your standard Terran versus Protoss opener. SOS though, now also closing that, oh man. A landed Viking, are you kidding me? SOS though, I was gonna say, definitely still having a lot of those workers out as well, but... I mean, Maru has caught up, right? He's got those mules mining. He's got those SUVs coming out 3 at a time. He's now transitioning towards a much more standard marine-based army, but still focusing on that Cyclone support as well. I think he's likely going to be going for a push because the +1 as well as the Stimpak as well as the combat shield are all lined up to be finishing up right around the same time. They will all finish up in roughly like the same 20 seconds or so. There's a very powerful push there coming up for the Terran player, and I think that Maru is making himself up right now for a big engagement. What does SOS have right now to try and deal with this? Well, in short, not a whole lot. He does have those oracles that are once again flying across the map. Right, they're gonna try and see if they can potentially do a little bit of damage here, but I don't really know exactly how well that's gonna go. Widowmine now going into a pretty powerful position. It will not be picked off before it burrows. Oh my god, great micro there by Maru. Siege tank though, it is gonna siege up here. Once again, that anti-armor missile providing a lot of additional sustain here to that army. SOS says, GG, well played. And even though it seemed like SOS was the one who was in control of this series, Maru is the one who obtains the victory in one of the best Terran versus Protosses that I have seen in recent times. What an awesome back and forth. Really cheeky Protoss play throughout the series. And I gotta say, right, if you enjoy that kind of style, keep on watching SOS, because while he's perfectly capable of just simply playing the solid, straightforward macro game, he is most definitely one of those players who's not afraid to mix it up. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.